Let's start with you, actually, Dilhana. I'm going to get you to introduce yourself. You are going to be involved in terms of the Meanwhile Gallery and with AAA. But you tell us about yourself.
Lovely. So I'm a Massey grad. I did my BFA with honours in 2015. Since then, I have been doing a bit of freelance art writing. At the moment, I'm part of the Extended Conversations writing program for emerging art writers between Blue Oyster in Dunedin and Enjoy here in Wellington. I'm also a facilitator at Meanwhile, so we're an artist-run space on Willis Street where we have our gallery space, the window space on the street front. A lot of what we do is basically to create space so we can show a lot of emerging artists because there isn't a lot of space in Wellington or in New Zealand, a lot of spaces for emerging artists.
Do you think that that's an issue that we face in New Zealand, that the gallery spaces are often reserved for mid-career and established artists?
I definitely
there is
think it's an issue, yeah.
Is that an issue of gatekeeping?
Well, I think it's kind of a fault in the way the system works. As a young practitioner myself, but also as young practitioners who run Meanwhile, we kind of understand that we either get paid very little for our practice or we don't get paid at all. And there's a lack of, I think, value given to emerging artists most of the time, or emerging artists and also emerging writers, creative practitioners generally. And yeah, a lot of the time I think we're kind of seen as people who kind of can be paid with experience. You know, it's kind of like we're doing you a favour by showing you or giving you this opportunity, which is super fair, but then it also doesn't actually give our practice value, but it also doesn't give us the kind of resources that we need to continue creating.
Yes. Talk to us about writing about South Asian Aotearoa art. When you say you're writing, are you working on a publication or what's the...
So
a blog?
I'm part of a writing program. So I kind of chose to write about South Asian Aotearoa artists because there isn't a lot of dialogue about South Asian art here. There's not a lot of representation, we're not exhibited very often, and even if we are, it's very much tokenised.
Cross over to Lo Hui now and get you to introduce yourself, Lo Hui, for us.
Hi, Linda. Thank you for having me here. Well, my name is Lo Hui. I teach Chinese language and literature and translation at the Victoria University. So that's my main role as an academic and teacher. But for some years, I was also directing the Confucius Institute, which is affiliated with Victoria University. And through that role, I was very actively involved in you might call the local art scene, and particularly exchange between New Zealand artists, musicians, and Chinese. I'm involved in a couple of local bands playing various versions of Chinese music. And
the Orient Express.
The Orient Express is one. And that band, we play a kind of a Shanghai oldies revival. And somehow that style really appealed to a broad range of people, both Chinese and non-Chinese. And later I will talk about the different sub-communities within the umbrella Chinese community and how important it is to cross over and facilitate communication within, amongst those groups. I act more like a bridge between cultures and people's communities, and sometimes when you're acting like a bridge all the time, you lose a sense of yourself, and I feel the need to also express how I position myself, my identity as a person of Chinese origin living outside China for a long time. And so I'm still exploring that. And
as a Chinese New Zealander who still has that that living a long time away from China,
yes,
that's an interesting space to be.
yes,
Talk to us about that.
It's hard to I think I can accept the term Chinese New Zealander.
I like the way you say it. I think I can accept it. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it.
I think I can accept that for my daughter's sake, because she was born in New Zealand, and looks like we've put down family roots here, and having lived here for 10 years. And I mentioned that there are so many different degrees of New Zealandness and Chineseness, within the Chinese umbrella term Chinese community. So because I'm also an academic, I think I'm not as invested in one particular definition of identity. I'm perhaps more interested in observing things from a distance. And I think one thing I have learned is to talk to everybody and to get involved in different groups. Doesn't necessarily having to form these clusters based on how long you've been here and which dialect of Chinese you speak.